African News. South Africa. South Africa flood toll rises to 443, dozens still missing. The death toll from floods that have battered South Africa's east coast has risen to 443, including a rescuer, a regional official has said, as dozens more are still missing. Rains have started to let up in the flood-ravaged east, allowing for search and relief aid operations to continue after one of the deadliest storms in the country's history. Flood waters engulfed parts of the southeastern coastal city of Durban and surrounding areas early last week, ripping apart roads, destroying hospitals, and sweeping away homes and those trapped inside. Recovery operations and humanitarian relief continued in the economic hub and tourist magnet city. Government, churches and charities have marshaled up relief aid for the more than 40,000 people left homeless by the raging flood waters. The government has announced an immediate $68 million in emergency relief funding. Tunisia. Oil pumping operations to begin after shipwreck. The Equatorial Guinea flagged oil tanker Zello, which sank in the Gulf of Gabes along Tunisia, has been checked with divers finding no leaks from the fuel-laden ship. The Tunisia branch of the World Wildlife Fund has also expressed concern about another environmental catastrophe in the region, an important fishing zone. The Zello was traveling from Egypt to Malta when it went down. Rabi El Majidi, Tunisian Minister of Transport, has said that rescue workers had checked during the operation that the valves were closed and the team of divers ensured they were sealed and intact. The crew of the Zello has issued a distress call and sought shelter in Tunisian waters from bad weather before going down. The crew of the Zello had issued a distress call and sought shelter in Tunisian waters from bad weather before going down. Tunisian authorities rescued the 7-member crew who received first aid and were moved to a hotel. An Italian ship specialized in cleaning up marine pollution will be sent alongside a team of divers to aid the efforts, an Italian official said. Tunisian officials are also investigating the itinerary of the tanker, which reportedly has Turkish and Libyan owners. Nigeria. U.S. major approves sale of weapons to Nigeria. The U.S. has agreed to sell military equipment worth $997 million to Nigeria, including 12 attack helicopters and numerous advanced precision kill weapon system APKWS rockets. The equipment had been requested by Nigeria and would help improve security. The U.S. said Nigeria will have no difficulty in acquiring the weapons, but the process is expected to take at least 5 years, which would include training military personnel on how to use the equipment. Nigeria is struggling to tackle violence by extremist groups such as Boko Haram and the so-called Islamic State West Africa Province (ISWAP), as well as worsening attacks by armed criminal gangs who carry out killings and kidnappings for ransom. This is the second major arms sale to Nigeria by the U.S. in 5 years. The U.S. had previously rejected Nigeria's request for military equipment due to human rights concerns during the administration of Barack Obama. But in 2017, the Trump administration agreed to sell 12 Super Tucano planes to Nigeria, which were delivered last year. Tanzania. Record-breaking 2.8 kilogram rough ruby from Tanzania goes on auction in Dubai. A rare rough ruby, dubbed one of the world's biggest, has gone on display for the first time ahead of an auction in the Gulf Emirate of Dubai. The 8,400-carat stone, nicknamed Baj al-Hamal and weighing 2.8 kilograms, was mined in Tanzania and made its debut at a Dubai hotel as part of SJ Gold and Diamond Callisto collection. The company says it is one of the biggest and rarest rubies ever found. The Tanzanian stone was not heated, meaning it has not been treated, so it's natural and that's why it's precious. Local reports have suggested the rough ruby with greenish and dark purple hues could fetch up to $120 million. The stone will be on display at different locations in Dubai for the next 30 days before going on auction. Late last month, a giant diamond nicknamed The Rock went on display for the first time in Dubai. The 228.31 carat pear-shaped gem, which was mined and polished in South Africa more than 20 years ago, is the largest white diamond ever to come to auction. The diamond is expected to fetch over $30 million. Rwanda. Rwanda excludes refugees from neighboring states in controversial UK deal. Rwanda has appeared to stoke controversy after a government official said the country will not admit refugees from neighboring countries under a deal with the United Kingdom to host asylum seekers. While the United Kingdom had laid down criteria for illegal migrants denied entry into the UK to be considered for resettlement in Rwanda, Kigali says it will not welcome asylum seekers from neighboring countries such as DR Congo, Burundi, Uganda, and Tanzania. Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Vincent Biruta, said there will be a system in place to screen arriving asylum seekers and migrants from the UK for criminal records and origin, adding that those from Rwanda's direct neighbors are not welcome. Minister Biruta made the statement at a media conference in Kigali during the signing of the inhumane deal that will see illegal migrants who enter the UK looking for asylum relocated to Rwanda. Since January, Rwanda has been working to revive relations with neighboring countries of Uganda and Burundi by opening land borders with both countries and holding several diplomatic talks. Southern Africa. Botswana to translocate 500 elephants to Mozambique. 2 years after pledging 500 elephants to Mozambique as a gift, Botswana has said the animals are set to be translocated in the near future. This was revealed by President Mokgweetsi Masisi during a 3-day state visit by Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi. Masisi said Botswana is very keen to see the elephants finally roaming their new habitat that will be the forest in the Mozambican territory. National Administration for the Conservation Areas, ANAC, a state institution responsible for the conservation of the biodiversity in Mozambique, recently reported that Botswana has lost 10,000 elephants since 2009 due to a variety of reasons, including poaching. Despite losing close to 350 elephants between 2020 and last year due to suspected cyanobacteria toxins, Botswana is still believed to be home to 130,000 African elephants, more than any other country in the continent. The 15,000-strong elephant population in Mozambique is in the Nyasa Reserve, a protected area covering 42,000 square kilometers. Last year, it was reported that conservationists had discovered female elephants in Mozambique's Gorongosa National Park, which had been born without tusks. Some researchers said the reason behind the tuskless elephants was an evolutionary response to the brutal killing of elephants for their ivory tusks during Mozambique's 15-year civil war. The large-scale killings were because of a rise in the demand for tusks by criminal networks to fund the civil war in Mozambique.
Tunisia. African refugees in Tunisia demand evacuation to different countries. Dozens of refugees and migrants in Tunisia are demanding evacuation to other countries. The refugees, mostly survivors of illegal immigration attempts by sea to Europe, have been staging a sit-in in front of the office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, in the Tunisian capital Tunis. Equipped with blankets, the refugees, many of whom are women and children, spend the night on cardboard boxes spread out on the ground amid suitcases containing their personal belongings. They denounce the United Nations inaction. Migrants and refugees in Tunisia, particularly particularly from sub-Saharan Africa, regularly complain of being subjected to verbal and physical abuse in Tunisia. The majority of these migrants were rescued off the coast of Tunisia after their boats capsized while they were trying to reach the European continent clandestinely. According to statistics from the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights, the Tunisian Coast Guard intercepted 25,657 migrants attempting to cross the Mediterranean in 2021, almost double the number from the previous year. Mali. Mali receives 2 Russian military helicopters. The ruling military government in Bamako has received a new shipment of Russian equipment for the Malian armed forces, including 2 combat helicopters and surveillance radars. The official Twitter account of Mali's presidency posted images of the unloading of the cargo from the Russian cargo plane that brought the equipment to Bamako's international airport. The colonel, who took power in August 2020 in the midst of security turmoil, have drawn closer to Russia and denounced France, who had significant prior interest in the country. On March 31st, Bamako received 2 Russian combat helicopters and radars, MiL Mi-35P attack helicopters, and 59 N6TE mobile radar systems, according to the specialized newsletter Africa Intelligence. Central Africa. Central Africa War Crime Court to open first trial. The Central African Republic Special Criminal Court is due to hear its first trial 7 years after it was formed. The hybrid court, staffed by both international and Central African judges and prosecutors, was set up to investigate war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in the past 2 decades. The court in Bangui has been praised by some as a model of justice in a country blighted by decades of civil war. Others have cast doubt on its effectiveness. The defendants in its first trial are members of 3R, one of the most powerful armed groups in the country. They're accused of massacring dozens of people in the northwest of the country. Kenya. Boston Marathon. Double win for Kenya as Paris Jepchirchir and Evans Chebet win titles. It was a double victory for Kenya at the Boston Marathon as Evans Chebet dominated a stellar field to claim the men's title, and reigning Olympic champion Paris Jepchirchir took the women's title. The last time Kenya took the top 3 spots on the podium was in 2012. Kenyan Evans Chebet pulled away with about 6.4 kilometers, 4 miles to go to win the race, picking up his first major victory in 2 hours, 6 minutes and 51 seconds, with fellow Kenyans Lawrence Cherono and Benson Kipruto coming in second and third. The 126th running of the Boston Marathon marked the event's return since the coronavirus pandemic forced a cancellation in 2020 and a delay to early October in 2021. Ethiopia. Ethiopian youth head to Russian embassy in Addis Ababa for recruitment into war. Ethiopians have reportedly volunteered to fight on Russia's side in its war with Ukraine, but Russia say that it will decline their overtures in keeping with international law. The Russia embassy in the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, received dozens of young Ethiopian men expressing support for Russia. Following the rumors making the rounds in the country of the embassy's recruitments, the eager young men teamed in their numbers in the hopes of getting enlisted for war. Many of their young men gathered at the embassy with a few of their belongings. When interviewed, stated various reasons for their decision to show solidarity with Russia. Ethiopia and about 17 other African countries did not participate in the UN session to vote on a resolution that condemned the Russian-Ukraine war. Meanwhile, authorities in Senegal were recently angered by allegation that the Russian embassy in Senegal had issued a notice to recruit citizens to fight in the war. Botswana. Botswana wants its place among liberation movements in Southern Africa. Botswana has said it should take its place among liberation movements in Southern Africa despite not getting independence through an armed struggle like many of its neighbors. President Mokgweetsi Masisi said Botswana and our people gave support to the liberation movement in the region, thus becoming a safe transit for many liberation fighters. Masisi made the comments during Mozambican President Philip Nyusi's state visit to Botswana. Botswana obtained its independence through the pressure of mass political parties in 1966. Angola, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe achieved theirs through armed struggle, and Botswana was a transit and safe haven for refugees and guerrilla fighters from these countries.
East Africa. Eastern Africa military spy agencies unite to fight terrorism and insecurity. Eastern Africa military intelligence agencies on Saturday wrapped up their meeting in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, where they consulted on regional security, terrorism, and other issues of common concern. The forum was attended by Ethiopia, Djibouti, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Tanzania, and Uganda. The meeting stressed a need for continued vigilance and concerted efforts among the regional countries to strengthen cooperation in combating security challenges, while also taking stock of the implementation status of the conclusions and recommendations of their previous meeting. According to a statement issued by the Ethiopian Ministry of Defense, the military agencies signed a memorandum of understanding to jointly combat terrorism and to counter anti-peace forces that pose threat to regional peace and security. The regional meeting is said to have provided an opportunity to review the security situation in the volatile Eastern African region. Tanzania. Tanzanians hard hit by trafficking in people with albinism. People with albinism in Tanzania have over the years had a price on their head, whether dead or alive, adults or children. The country is a source for all the trafficking routes in East and Southern Africa, where markets for their body parts prosper. Tanzania has the highest rate of people with albinism worldwide. While an estimated 1 in 15,000 people in Africa has the condition, it affects 1 out of 1,400 Tanzanians. Albinism is a rare genetic condition that limits melanin pigment in the skin, eyes, and hair, making a person appear unusually light. The gene mutation associated with albinism is carried, even if not exhibited, by 1 in every 19 Tanzanians. Those with the condition are socially alienated and stigmatized, often called derogatory terms like ghosts and white goats. People with the condition are valued for their body parts as their bones, skin, and internal organs, or used for amulets and concoctions that some believe bring good fortune, health, wealth, and even powers like flying to those who use them. A complete set of organs in Tanzania is priced at about $75,000 by criminal networks serving wealthy clients. Children are said to be worth more. Although crimes against people with albinism are underreported, the high value attached to the illicit trade makes this form of human trafficking one of the most lucrative and harmful. Rwanda. Rwanda jails Chinese national filmed whipping men tied to a tree. A Rwandan court has sentenced a Chinese national for torture after a video showed him beating men tied on a tree. The court sentenced Sun Shujun to 20 years in prison. A Rwandan man said to be his employee was also sentenced to 12 years in jail for abetting torture. The victims are reported to have been former workers at a mine operated by Mr. Sujun in Rutsiro district and who he accused of theft. In August 2021, the 3-minute video went viral in Rwanda and led to the arrest of Mr. Shujun, who was later released on bail. The video was taken by angry workers and shared on social media. The Chinese embassy in Kigali condemned unlawful acts in the video, local media reported. Witnesses told the court that Mr. Shijun had erected a cross where those suspected of stealing from him were tied and whipped. Kenya. British troops lose fight for diplomatic immunity over Kenya fire. The British Army has lost diplomatic immunity on lawsuits over the 10,000-acre bushfire in Nanyuki that was set by its soldiers who were allegedly drugged. In the landmark ruling, Justice Anthony Nabo argued that the UK government waived diplomatic immunity to legal action when it signed an agreement in 2015 governing the terms under which its soldiers would be allowed to operate in the country. According to the judge, the British Army has no legal entity separate from the UK government. He opined that the 2015 agreement did amount to a partial waiver of diplomatic immunity. A wildfire at Loldaig Hills Ranch, a 49,000-acre sanctuary which houses the Nanyuki Army Base used by Britain for military drills, broke out in March 2021 and caused widespread devastation. Cameroon. US gives temporary reprieve to Cameroonian asylum seekers. Cameroonians living in the US who lived in fear of imminent deportation have been given an 18-month reprieve by the US government, according to the US Department of Homeland Security (DHS). Human rights groups in the US and Cameroon have been lobbying for this temporary protected status (TPS) for years due to the violence carried out by Boko Haram in the far north of the country and separatists fighting to create an independent state in the nation. This temporary reprieve, which Cameroonian asylum seekers already in the US can apply for, will last 18 months, but it only starts once a federal register is published. Those eligible and in detention will be released once they receive the TPS designation. This is in the sharp contrast if you compare with all the benefits Ukraine refugees have recently received from the same US government. Africa-wide. African Union chief holds talks with Russia's foreign minister. The chairman of the African Union Commission held a phone conversation with Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov. Mr. Faki posted on Twitter that he stressed the need to respect international law and urged for dialogue and a peaceful resolution to the war in Ukraine. Last week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reached out to his Senegalese counterpart and African Union Chairman Macky Sall requesting to address the AU. President Macky Sall said he noted Mr. Zelensky's request. He also called for dialogue to end the war. The conflict has led to sharp increase in fuel and wheat prices in Africa and threatens to further worsen economies devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Nigeria. Poland freed some detained Nigerian refugees. 13 Nigerian refugees who were detained in Poland after they fled the war in Ukraine have been released, the Nigerian in Diaspora Commission (NIDCOM) has said. According to NIDCOM, the Nigerians were held in various detention camps in Poland. In a statement shared on its Twitter handle, NIDCOM said the 13 were among the 19 Nigerians detained in the European country. They were released following the intervention of the Nigerian ambassador to Poland, Christian Ugu, the agency said. According to the statement, Mr. Ugu assured Nigerians that the mission will continue to do its best to ensure that the interests of Nigerians are well taken care of. Nigerians seeking refuge in Poland had been briefed on the likely consequences of remaining as undocumented immigrants in the country, NIDCOM wrote. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in March received about 5 batches of Nigerians fleeing the war in Ukraine. However, some of the Nigerians chose to remain behind and were held in detention centers in Poland. South Africa. Zelensky holds call with Ramaphosa on Ukraine war and bilateral relations. President Cyril Ramaphosa has held discussions with his Ukrainian counterpart. Volodymyr Zelensky tweeted about a phone call with the South African leader. The two discussed a wide range of issues that included the current conflict between Russia, the looming global food crisis, and strengthening relations and cooperation within international organizations. Ramaphosa previously spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin and had offered to mediate between Ukraine and Russia. The call between the two presidents had become highly controversial after Ukrainian ambassador to South Africa requested meetings with Ramaphosa and with International Relations and Cooperation Minister so she could establish what exactly Ramaphosa wanted to talk about to Zelensky. Her request irked the South African government, which accused her of being undiplomatic and by implication presumptuous, is going beyond her status as ambassador by seeking a meeting with the president and foreign minister. The recent call should help to repair relations between the two countries, which have become strained by South Africa's diplomatic position on the war. It has abstained 3 times from resolutions in the United Nations General Assembly condemning Russia's aggression. Pretoria insists it has abstained not because it condones Russia's aggression, but because it believes that a balanced approach is necessary to try to find a diplomatic resolution to the war. ESWATINI. King Mswati III placed on notice by economic freedom fighters and pro-democracy groups. Pro-democracy groups led by South Africa's economic freedom fighters EFF have given Eswatini's King Mswati III a year to abdicate. This was said as the EFF led the blockage of the Ngwenya, Oshok and Golela border posts for 6 hours in solidarity with the Eswatini chapter of the party's call for democracy and human rights. With growing calls for the last absolute monarch in Africa to step down, the crisis in Eswatini had been tabled at the SADC Extraordinary Organ Troika. Early this month, the issue, along with Mozambique's Islamic extremist insurgency, was due for review in Pretoria at the SADC summit. However, Eswatini was removed from the program because of the unavailability of the presidents of Botswana and Mozambique. The summit segment had to be deferred to a later date. However, the delay was not holding back pro-democracy lobbyists' push for change, as they vowed that King Mswati III would not be in power this time next year. Somalia. Somalia government-US company dispute legality of oil deal. Somalia's president and prime minister have declared a null and void a deal signed by their energy minister with a U.S. company to explore for oil and gas off the coast of the Horn of Africa nation. Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Abdi Rashid Mohammed Ahmed and Coastline Exploration Limited had announced 7 production sharing agreements (PSAs) covering deep water offshore blocks. Ahmed hailed it as a huge moment for Somalia, which is in the grip of a political crisis over long-delayed elections and also battling a jihadist insurgency. Recently completed seismic programs indicate that Somalia has the potential to become a significant oil and gas-producing country. Both Somalia's president and prime minister, who are often at loggerheads, have swiftly denounced the deal. The office of the President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, better known by his nickname Farmajo, said it floated a decree that bans the signing of any agreements with foreign governments or entities during the election period. Kenya. Google CEO announces jobs in Nairobi. Google is opening its fast development center in Nairobi and will hire 100 new employees in the new hub as it seeks to expand its base in the continent. Among the new employees sought by the firm include engineering managers, product managers, software engineers, and developer relations engineers. Google initially said it will invest $1 billion over the next 5 years to allow for faster and more affordable internet access and to support entrepreneurship in Africa. After opening an AI and research center in Ghana in 2019, the new center is now Google's second big research and development investment in Africa. To apply, interested Kenyans can visit Google's website. According to Google and Alphabet boss Sundar Pichai, huge strides have been made in recent years, but more work is needed to make internet accessible, affordable, and useful for every African.
Breaking news. Kenya's third president, Mwai Kibaki, has died aged 90. President Uhuru Kenyatta confirmed in a televised address to the nation. Kibaki served as the third president of the Republic of Kenya from 2002 to 2013. President Uhuru described him as a brilliant debater and an earnest friend to many and declared a period of mourning, including the flying of flags at half-mast until a state funeral is held for Kibaki. His contributions as Minister of Finance and Vice President saw Kenya's economy grow steadily, fueled by a commodities boom as well well as fiscal and monetary policies that were the backbone of his economic philosophy. In January 2003, Kibaki introduced a free primary education initiative, which brought over 1 million children who would not have been able to afford school the chance to attend. The Kibaki regime also saw a reduction of Kenya's dependence on Western donor aid, with the country being increasingly funded by internally generated resources such as increased tax revenue collection, relations with China, Japan, and other non-Western powers improved and expanded remarkably in the Kibaki years. China and Japan, especially the Asian tigers such as Malaysia and Singapore, Brazil, the Middle East, and to a lesser extent South Africa, Libya, and other African countries, and even Iran became increasingly important economic partners. President Kibaki's style was that of a low-key publicity-averse but highly intelligent and competent technocrat. He, unlike his predecessors, never tried to establish a personality cult, never had his portrait on every unit of Kenya's currency, never had all manner of streets, places, and institutions named after him, never had state-sanctioned praise songs composed in his honor, never dominated news bulletins with reports of his presidential activities, however routine or mundane, and never engaged in the populist sloganeering of his predecessor. He was the only surviving former president and is survived by 4 children.
Great news! Tunacheki, Kunda Kids and Nala have partnered together to bring you Maua and the Garden of Plenty, our first African children's book for free. Nala is a money transfer app that uses the latest technology and works with local communities to make payments as hassle-free as possible. The easy-to-use app allows anyone to quickly send money from the UK to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, with many other African countries and currencies coming soon at the lowest rates available. To get a free copy of Maua and the Garden of Plenty for yourself, family, or friends, download the Nala app, use the code KUNDAKIDS, and make a transfer of as little as £1. For those in the USA, you can download the app and RSVP for your free book coming next month. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share, and like our video. It's the best way of supporting us. And remember, Africa is watching.